if you like what you're seeing and hearing, please consider subscribing to the podcast. You can go to either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, or Amazon Music in the podcast section. It'll hit Monday morning or Sunday afternoon, depending on when it posts. And the video will hit on YouTube and Spotify Monday. Spotify will hit Monday evening, and YouTube it'll hit Monday morning, 7 a.m., just like it does for the audio services. So please go to those places and consider subscribing or listening to the show. You can also write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com if you want to write me a letter. Let me know what you think of the show, things like that. Or you can also find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So go to those places and please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks. And with that, we'll get on to the episode. Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 239 of Gamer with Grief. And this episode is all about the Hasbro layoffs. So we're going to talk about it. And next week, I'm going to have Avin, Carroll on from The Grief of Politics. We're going to dive into it more because I'm finding more and more articles and I want to talk more and more about it. But I just want to give everybody a rundown of what I know so far. And yes, I'm putting my hat in that ring. I know a lot of people in the gaming space right now are talking about it. I want to give my 2 cents. So the first article that I'm going to read from is from Polygon, and it's by Charlie Hall. It was updated on December 13, 2023, and it's titled, Hasbro's Christmas Layoffs Have Deeply Impacted the D&D and Magic Teams. More of this is coming out now that I've read online, but I'm trying to verify that. I just want to thank Charlie. This is a great article, and I think it breaks down all the big important points. I'm going to read from it. I'm going to give my analysis. I'm just going to read the top couple paragraphs. Game and toy maker Hasbro announced it will cut roughly 1,100 jobs on Monday. When added to the 800 layoffs made earlier this year, the total amount to just less than 1/3 of the company's entire labor force. The news comes exactly 2 weeks ahead of Christmas, traditionally the biggest holiday of the year for games and toy sales. There is a full letter that Chris Cox, the CEO of Hasbro, released. You know, to be totally transparent, I have read it. I don't want to read it. I don't because every time I read these letters, it just seems like the same corporate speak we've seen over and over and over again. You know, there hasn't, from what I found so far, any kind of there hasn't been any kind of news or anything of the C-suite people being let go or anything like that. And so I'm just kind of blown away that this kind of thing happens. Games, I think if the news reports I've read are to be believed, in video games, about 8,000 people have lost their jobs. And so I'm kind of blown away this year in gaming. This is, many people have talked about one of the best years in video games and gaming in general. I know this is a story about tabletop games, but obviously I've talked about D&D a lot on the pod. It's a game I care about very much. And it's just really tragic that right before Christmas, people that you look up to, I think what it is, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I think some of the things that I've been experiencing lately is, we all understand that corporations kind of obviously own things and run our lives and stuff like that. But I think there's this weird, there's this kind of agreement that we understand that I think we know that we're being lied to in a way. This isn't like a nefarious lie. I'm talking about marketing in a way. We see public places, public-facing people, in companies. Amy Dahl, I think from D&D. I hope I'm getting her name, spelling her name right. But she was the D&D Beyond presenter. And I really like her interviews with people. And, she had heartwarming. She did one-shots. She did character creations. And what I noticed lately is they've been doing interviews with several D&D creators, the two guys, Kyle MacLachlan and Monty Martin of Dungeon Dudes and things like that. But what I've noticed lately is they're doing these kind of off-camera things where they just have a cue card with a question, and then it cuts to them answering the question. And I understand that's a cheaper way to do it than have like Amy on camera, you know, speaking to them. But there's like a human element, and you want to see people, passionately at the company, passionate about what they do. And yeah, it's depressing, right before Christmas. I mean, and these are all people that supposedly, in these teams deeply cared about D&D and deeply cared about not the product, but they cared about D&D, and they seem to care about the community. It says right here, I just want to read from Charlie's article a little bit more. The news likely comes as no surprise to insiders, including investors, who have been tracking the shortfalls of the company's toy portfolio for some time. Meanwhile, Hasbro subsidiary Wizards of the Coast, which publishes both Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering, is experiencing all-time highs for both revenue earned and a number of players engaged in those brands. Activist hedge fund AltaFox attempted to push the Rhode Island-based company to spin off Wizards in 2022, but the effort was defeated in a high-profile shareholder election in June 2022. Now, the 100-year-old company is left to rebuild in 2024, and they talk about some of the teams that were laid off. Again, it's insane to me. And then at the end, Charlie updated the article. Say, update as of December 13th. As of Wednesday morning, social media posts in the wake of Hasbro's cuts show the impact across Wizards of the Coast, from IT staff to presenters to game designers and artists. Layoffs even include foundational members of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons team, meaning that some of those who built the most successful version of this seminal RPG will not be there as it turns 50 in 2024. Yeah. That is, to me, that is more of an attitude thing. The idea that you were there for some of the most influential things in D&D. You've crafted it to be this, and the community, but you've maybe reached out to the community. My thing is, it just seems like this is something where, like I said, the lie at the beginning of this, the idea is that we want to think that everybody's acting in good faith, and the people that really love the game are telling us they love the game and showing us they love the game, and we just find that not to be true. And we now know that it's like a corporation. Like, I just want to be lied to a little bit. Like I said, I know all these, all these. I know that Hasbro is a massive corporation, but when I see D&D, I don't think of that. But now that I've seen these layoffs, I think, oh, it's a Hasbro property. I just want to read this. This is actually from Dice Breakers. This was written by Chase Carter. It was updated on December 13, 2023, so a few days ago. They basically said, quote, this is they reached out to Hasbro to get like a breakdown of the people affected. And a Hasbro representative responded to Dicebreaker with a copy of CEO Chris Cox's memo, adding, "We're not sharing breakdowns on geography or teams out of respect for employees." The original story is below. So they don't want to, have people doxxed or harassed, which seems weird. I don't know who would harass people that just got laid off. But, the internet's a weird place, so that's probably something that happened. And this goes into the earlier layoffs a little bit more. Hasbro already reduced its workforce by 800 people in January of this year, a plan that was supposed to save $300 million annually by 2025, according to the AP. At the time, Cox trumpeted the company's new track, focus on fewer, larger brands, digital development, and invest hard on direct-to-consumer and license deals, like Baldur's Gate 3. He also championed Wizards of the Coast gaming segment as a continued breadwinner among toy lines that couldn't stop flagging in a post-pandemic economy. Now Cox says that the headwinds we saw through the first 9 months of the year have continued into holiday and are likely to persist in 2024. And I've seen a lot of talk online about this, about the idea that these companies look at the amount of money that they made during the pandemic when everybody was at home, when everybody was like starved for entertainment. Video games shot up, record years for video games. A lot of people were figuring out and finding D&D through Zoom and actual play shows like Critical Role, Dimension 20, and I watch Severed Accords, which is a show that is done by some independent YouTubers. They're pretty good. Shout out to Severed Accords. I like you guys. They have a lot of episodes. They have about 100 episodes out, and they use Tailspire, which I like to use. And everything's just getting bigger and bigger with their channel. Anyway, there's stuff like that people found during the pandemic, and I think a lot of these companies look at those gains and say, this is what it's going to be like forever. But we all know that's not what it's going to be like forever. Instead of saying, we had a boon of a year this year, let's put some money in the bank, and everything's going to downturn. I mean, that's what I understand. Corporations are people, but people usually have a little bit of foresight to say, I'm going to hang on to this stuff a little bit. I'm going to hang on to this time, this whatever. So I just find it so strange to me that these companies wouldn't do this, and they would just pretend like this was the new normal, was the pandemic years. And I think it's kind of irresponsible. And again, I'm going to look into this a little more. I'll probably talk about it with Avin next week because, there's been talk of like, has anybody from the C-suite been let go? And it seems like no, they have not. So, man, they also said too, there was a thing here, affected employees will be notified over the course of the next 6 months. So I can't imagine what that's going to do to morale. When you're just working away going, am I on that list? When are they going to shove out? When are they going to push out that new list where a new round of us has to go to manager's office and then we're shown the door? Okay, Hasbro plans to vacate its Providence, Rhode Island office when the lease ends in January 2024. That's probably a little bit smarter. That would save a lot of money. The CEO, Cox, noted that the company was not using it to its full capacity, echoing a growing grumble amongst executives who are pushing remote and hybrid workers back into expensive urban offices to justify real estate investments. And again, we don't know where the stuff where it came from. And yeah, this is just another thing of man, come on, yeah, it's nuts. I just want to say that I know it's the holidays and I don't know what I can do as a fan, but my heart goes out to the people that have been notified that they are laid off and the people that are about to be notified that they're laid off. Good luck. This is a little bit of a shorter video because I just wanted to go over this. So just to let everybody know again, Hasbro's laid off over 1,100 people. They will be notifying people over the next 6 months. Some of them. It seems like some of them are notified already. So, yeah, a little bit bummer of an episode. I've done these episodes before. I did it with Embracer Group when they've laid off people, and they're still continuing to lay off people. That's in the gaming news if you like that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, again, video games have been terrible this year. There's been about, 8,000 people laid off this year with gaming. One of the best years in gaming, some of the best games we've seen in many years, and those people are just gone. So, I think with that bummer of an ending, again, my heart goes out to everybody that was let go. I hope you land on your feet. And I think with that, I will let everybody go. Again, next week, I'll talk to Avin Carroll from The Grief of Politics, and we'll go over this more because we do these episodes where we go over layoffs and how it affects people. So with that, I will bid everybody adieu. Everybody have a good week, and I will talk to you again.